What a testament to the work of our team and to your work as well. And thank you, Marilyn, and everyone for having us here. It is a joy to be back at Power Trip and to see so many familiar faces. As Kim mentioned, I'm Courtney Flanders. I'm here with my colleagues Gabby, Hewitt, and Dana Britt, representing Education Elements, and we are a national K-12 consulting company. We've been in the business for about 14 years now, working across 48 states. So while we personalize everything we do to meet your needs, as a Texan, I'll say, it ain't our first rodeo. So think of us as your cheerleaders, your subject matter expertise, your accountability buddy, your extra set of hands. If you could raise your hand if you've ever hired an outside group to help implement high-quality instructional materials. Okay, most people. Keep it raised or raise it if you've ever brought in somebody to help with strategic direction, strategic planning, leadership development, school improvement, school redesign. So those are all of the things that we do. And Gabby, Dana, and I represent our new partners, and we would love, over the course of the next couple of days, to learn more about the incredible work that you're doing and to see if there's an opportunity to partner. And we'd love that if we, when we leave here, unfortunately, at some point, we have to leave here, but when we leave here, that you take our call, and we can continue the conversation. If you were here last year, then you heard us talk about one of the things that we do, which is help people make decisions that are quote unquote safe enough to try, and how we apply that same thinking to our personal life, our professional life, and the work that we do with districts across the country. Another topic we help leaders think about often is how can you structure work differently to get more done, to beat burnout, to find joy in your work. And as I was preparing for being here today, I thought, well, if I speak on this topic, I run the risk that people will think this is the only thing that we do. And as Kim said, sometimes it's hard to know with consultants what exactly it is that you do. And besides, you all have figured out ways to beat burnout and find joy. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in the seats that you're in. So whether that's listening to Pink at the end of a long day, which I heard this morning at our breakfast meeting, or finding some ways to shake it off and get back out there, you all have done that hard work. And so I thought, well, maybe we'll use this time instead to talk about clothes. All right, I got a couple chuckles. I'm joking, of course. But I do want to tell the story of Katrina Lake. And I want to talk about Katrina's story because there are a few lessons in how she's approached her work that I think we can all take away. Katrina is one of the very few female founder CEOs to take an internet company public. And in 2017, she was the youngest female leader to take a company public. You can see her here on the screen with her 14-month-old son on her hip. There are three things that Katrina does that really speak to what we believe at Education Elements and that I hope you all can take back to your districts. When Katrina was a graduate student at Harvard Business School, she, like many busy leaders, cared about how she looked, but didn't always know exactly what to wear. So she did what most of us women do. She called her sister. And her sister would tell her, give her some advice about what's in style, what works for her body, what would be the right outfit for that situation. But unlike most of us, Katrina's sister is actually a stylist. So that must be nice for her. And Katrina thought, well, what if everybody had access to a personal stylist just like this? Now, at the time, the only business like this was Trunk Club, which was just for men. And the guiding assumption was that women like shopping too much to outsource that task, right? There's not a market for it. But Katrina said, actually, it's quite simple. It's as simple as this 2x2 matrix of people who care what they look like and people who either don't enjoy or don't have time to shop. So regardless of what everyone else is telling me, I believe that there's a market here. And in 2010, she found herself a business partner, and she started Rack Habit. She signed up 29 friends, and she made a big Excel spreadsheet of all of their style preferences and their sizes, and then she took her $6,000 limit credit card out to the shops of Boston, and she purchased clothes for them, and the next month, her clients doubled, And then they doubled again and doubled again until she knew she had a viable business, and she took it to San Francisco and she renamed it Stitch Fix. You're with me. All right. For those of you who don't know, Stitch Fix is an online personal shopping service. You can let your stylist know your style preferences, the things that you like, and then you pay a styling fee, and they ship you 5 clothing and accessory items. You keep what you like. Anything that you keep, that styling fee goes towards. You send back what doesn't work for you. You can let your stylist know if you have a special event coming up, if you're looking for more blazers, if you're looking for something for a wedding, and over time, your stylist gets to know you better. But the difference between Stitch Fix and most other assisted commerce is that you're not getting anything at a discount. Unless you purchase all 5 items, you're paying full price. Yet somehow, 13 years later, Katrina's business has more than 3 million clients worldwide. She's shipped more than 100 million fixes to folks, and Forbes named her one of only 19 female self-made billionaires in the United States. She took an idea that folks said there wasn't a market for. She turned it into a $2 billion industry in less than 7 years, and somehow it's still relevant today. So what can we learn from that? When you and I walk into a store like Macy's or J. Crew, and we want to buy something, but we leave empty-handed, even if you have the most attentive salesperson who somehow found out that that shade of pink wasn't it, okay, we need a hotter hot pink, or they found out that that fit wasn't just right for you. Even if your stylist at the store, your salesperson finds that out, that data doesn't make its way back to the company. At Stitch Fix, if you keep an item, you let them know what you liked about that item. When you send an item back, you're saying what didn't work for you. And in all of that, your stylist gets smarter. They learn as much from your no's as they learn from your yeses. When you think about your own school district, what data do you need to better understand to actually move work forward? In our work with districts across the country, we so often hear leaders say, we want to do community forums, we're going to do strategic planning, we're going to hear from everybody. But then what happens? We host an event, and the same parents who always come to PTA meetings come, and we hear the same messages we always hear, and we miss out on opportunities to learn more from our no data, or we miss out on the perspective that matters most, the students. So whether that means hearing the student perspective in schools with declining student and academic achievement, or hearing from families who are choosing to leave your district, you need to learn as much from your no's as you learn from your yeses. For Stitch Fix to work, Katrina needs her stylist to know what you want better than you know yourself. And she needs to do that in a really human-centric way. Nobody wants to take measuring tape and measure their bust and measure their hips and send in all of those sizes, right? That sounds miserable. So when you sign up for Stitch Fix, she asks a series of questions. If you were to buy a button-down blouse, what size would you buy? And how would that fit you? Okay, now if you were to buy a sweater, what size would you buy and how would that fit you? And they use that information to determine what your actual size is. Now on the back end, they don't catalog their inventory based on the number that the clothing item says it is. We all know that a size 8 from one place is real different than a size 8 from someplace else, right? So they catalog the item based on its actual sizes so that when they send you something, they know that it'll fit you. Depending on who you are, this kind of data science is either pretty interesting or incredibly dull. But what does matter here is that over time, Katrina's team has been able to not do the things she shouldn't do. In the beginning, that meant using technology to really think differently about how to get people the right items. As technology has advanced, it means using things like generative AI to actually make initial style recommendations for you based on users who are similar to you and using predictive software. It also means using things like AI to write product descriptions. So much of what burns us out in schools is work that isn't meaningful. And so when you think about your own districts, is it helpful for your teachers to write standards-aligned lesson plans? Does that help them really understand the content and feel comfortable teaching? Or would it be a better use of their time to just internalize high-quality instructional materials? Could you be using generative AI to help teachers know what to say next in a restorative practices aligned way, instead of asking them to memorize a code of conduct that can't possibly plan for every scenario? Whether it means hiring a third party to take work off of your team's hands and free up their capacity, or bring in additional subject matter expertise, it's time to move beyond working smarter and not harder and really evaluate, can you not do work that you should not do? Can you move past that? The final lesson I want to take from Katrina's story is how she took a 2-person startup company and managed to keep the growth and culture she wanted as she grew it to more than a $5,800 company with workers worldwide. Research shows that as cities double, individual productivity and innovation increases by 15% per resident. So as we all make our way back to the Austin airport and we fight that traffic, as the city of Austin has doubled, every single person who lives here gets more innovative and more productive. And it's because they have more chance encounters with other ideas, more access to resources. But that same phenomenon is true almost nowhere else. As a principal of a startup high school, my colleague and I did everything. We made the copies, we planned the PD, we met with the parents, we painted the walls, we hung up furniture. But as the size of our team grew, our individual productivity also shifted because we add more layers, we add more roles. We have to get approval from more people. Yet somehow Katrina has been able to move past that and really keep that kind of culture and growth that she wanted. So how do you do that when you all run major districts that inevitably have a lot of employees? Katrina uses a system of self-organizing that we use at Education Elements and that we coach a lot of our other partner districts to use. In this work, we think about really bringing clarity to the work that needs to happen and breaking down the ambiguity to give people the authority to step fully into their role. As the needs of the organization evolve and the work evolves, your role evolves as well. That doesn't mean that you get a new job title every few months or that you always rely on other duties as assigned, but it does mean that we get really clear about the work that needs to happen and we're strategic about who we assign to that work. Not just saying, let's put an assistant principal on this because that's the title that typically does it, or let's bring in the counselor because that's the title that typically does it. I saw some cameras come out. If these 4 things on the screen happen in your district, if you find yourself sending emails with 5 different people CC'd and you don't know who actually makes the decision, or if the people closest to the work don't really get to call the shots about what happens next, then we'd encourage you to take on this mantra that we believe so dearly, to define the work before you define the people. In Katrina's story, I took away a few lessons that made me think differently about how do we approach work. And I know for many of us, our relationship with work really stems from some of our earlier experiences. The first couple of jobs that we had, how we've thought through past bosses. And for me, a defining moment really comes from my first job. So I want to close with just one final story. A few of you in here know this. But I grew up on a dairy farm in upstate New York. Woo-woo for my New Yorkers. Any farmers in the room? Kind of, I've got some half hands, okay. Well, one of my jobs on this dairy farm was milking cows after school. And so if you've never done it, it's very monotonous work. The cows are in 2 long lines in a barn. Their rears face you, and you're on a walkway, and their heads are on the other end because you need to get to the back end. And it's pretty simple. You clean off the cow's udder, you put on the milking machine, you wait for it to finish, and then you move on to the next cow. And while you're waiting, you do some other chores in between. One night when I was 14, I was helping my dad milk the cows. We had just gotten started. It's a fairly long process. And I was going to scrape the cows' beds. They have these individual stanchion beds. They sometimes get manure on them. You scrape it off to the gutter behind them. Not pretty, not glamorous. But as I was doing this, I slipped on some manure the way a cartoon character slips on a banana peel, okay? My feet went up over my head, my pitchfork went flying, and I landed smack dab in the gutter. If you're sitting here not knowing what a gutter is, let me just promise you it is not the same as the mud mask in your gift bags, okay? It was so heavy and so deep, I couldn't get out of it on my own. My dad had to come, lift me out, and I promise you, I was disgusting. It was in my hair, on my face. It was so thick, it had soaked through my clothes onto my bare skin. And my dad gave me a choice. He said, you can go home, or there are extra overalls in the back. You could get changed and come back out here. And this is a small town. I can see the shower from where I am. But I put on the other overalls, and I finished the job. And for 2 more hours, I milked cows, covered in crap. Because when there's work to be done, you do it, no matter how shitty it is. Thank you. I know you all well enough to know that that's the kind of leader you are too, right? Hopefully only figuratively. When there's work to be done, you all do it. But I am here to say that if you and your teams continually feel like you're working through crap, then it's time to work on your district, not just in it. And we at Education Elements would love to be the thought partners to help you do just that. It is always a joy to be here. It's a pleasure to hear more about what you all are doing. We're at Elements. We do a lot of great work across the country, and we'd love to do that with you. We hope that what you learn here helps you lead at home, that you choose to learn as much from your no's as you learn from your yeses, that you don't do what you shouldn't do, that you define the work before you define the people, and lastly, that you work on your district, not just in it. Thanks so much for your time, everybody.